What if the truest reinvention doesn't roar but whispers? What if your greatest transformation is not a sweeping overhaul, but the sum of countless micro decisions made when no one else is watching? We live in an era seduced by spectacle, by radical makeovers, by sweeping resets. We scroll through before-after photos, binge transformation stories, and yet many of us feel stranded in the same loops: restlessness, shame, cravings, regret. The world urges us to go big. Do this 30-day challenge, overhaul your life in 90 days, pivot completely. But the truth is, many lasting changes are born quietly, in the unglamorous spaces of dawn and dusk, in the pauses between impulses, in moments no one sees. In this spirit, I invite you to consider 4 Stoic micro-habits, small acts you can fold into everyday life. Carried out with discipline, they act like surgical blades, not to cut recklessly, but to carve away the weaker parts of ourselves. Together, they form an inner architecture of power, resilience, and clarity. Below is not a script to mimic, it is a conversation, a prompt, a companion, a mirror. I will show you how, in my own life and in philosophy, these habits can reshape the inner terrain. Let's begin. Habit 1, defending the morning silence. Before the noise drags you in, take the first moments for yourself. The practical prescription. At the first flicker of dawn, or as soon as you awaken, resist the reach for your phone, social media, messages, news. Instead, sit in silence, breathe, write a line or two, reflect on who you must become today. Use that quiet to fortify intention before distraction pounces. The Stoic source. Marcus Aurelius began many mornings by reminding himself of the trials ahead: envy, greed, arrogance, cruelty. He anticipated not surprises, but known dangers, preparing himself internally before entering the fray. From Meditations 2.1. In that way, he claimed the first battleground within. Silence is not emptiness, but a fortress. In the stillness, destructive emotions lose their ambush. Clarity has room to breathe. My reflection and application. I used to believe that checking my phone the moment I woke up, catching the news, scanning messages was being efficient. But quite often, I entered the rest of the day already reactive, already shaped by someone else's agenda. Over time, I realized that by yielding my dawn to distraction, I surrendered the most fertile hours of self-formation. So I redesigned my mornings. For 10 minutes, I keep my phone in airplane mode or across the room. I close my eyes, breathe deeply, scan my body for tension. Then I open a blank notebook, digital or physical, and ask, given what I value most, who must I be today? I jot 3 words or a micro intention. Sometimes it's mundane, kind, steady, focused. Other times it's painful: forgive, resist, persist. But in that early silence, I feel anchored. I've noticed that days started with this internal clarity tend to remain steadier. External storms may come, but I carry the fortress within. A challenge for you. Next morning, before your eyes meet the screen, close them and take 3 full breaths. Then ask, who must I be today? Write 1 sentence. Don't judge or elaborate. Let that become your inner North Star. Habit 2, voluntary restraint. Deny, not deprive. Once a day, say no to the non-essential. Train your will by refusing comfort. The practical prescription. Identify a small gratification you expect: extra screen time, a treat, a comfort. Deliberately forego it, not to punish yourself, but to exercise your freedom over impulses. Each refusal is a micro-victory of inner sovereignty. The Stoic source. Seneca and Epictetus teach that we enslave ourselves through desire. We imagine suffering, we chase fleeting pleasures, we bounce between extremes. Yet freedom emerges not by acquiring, but by mastering what we want. One day's abstinence is not misery, it's training in magnanimity. Seneca once said, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. If you can deny a small craving, you teach yourself not to be tyrannized by impulses. My reflection and application. I used to treat my habits like entertainment: a little reward after work, a snack, a scroll. But I noticed a pattern. The pleasure rarely stayed enjoyable. It often tipped into craving. Alcohol that once tasted celebratory tasted necessary. Social media that once amused became a trap. So I introduced voluntary exclusion zones. For instance, on some evenings, I refuse dessert even when I want it. On other days, I impose a phone fast during lunch. Once a week, I walk home without allowing myself a podcast or music. At first, it feels odd, sometimes dry, but gradually I realize my happiness doesn't depend on that dessert, that playlist, that distraction. The craving weakens, the impulse loosens its grip. I recall a memory, traveling in a remote village with no Wi-Fi, no streaming, nothing. At first, I itched for digital comfort, but over 3 days, I found that my mind settled more. That trip was a kind of voluntary deprivation, and afterward, I returned with renewed appetite for silence. A challenge for you. Choose one minor indulgence you normally allow: a snack, a show, a social scroll. Tomorrow, refuse it intentionally. When the urge arises, pause, breathe, and watch it pass. Journal your internal experience. Did discomfort arise? How long did it linger? Did the urge fade? Habit 3, the evening tribunal. Self-examination in darkness. At night, put your soul on trial, not with cruelty, but with clarity. The practical prescription. Just before bed, step into darkness, turn off screens, lights dim. Pose 3 tough questions. 1, what failures, impulses, regrets surfaced? 2, where did I resist, grow, or exercise virtue? 3, in what respect am I better than yesterday? Do so without delusion. No excuses, no flinching. The Stoic source. Seneca admits that he nightly questioned himself. What did I do wrong? Where was I weak? What could I have done better? Letters 83. This is not self-flagellation. It is a surgical examination of the soul. Did anger master me? Did I speak unwisely? Did I shrink from challenge? By measuring failures and successes, I redirect myself toward growth, my reflection and application. When I first attempted nightly self-examination, I defaulted to generic journaling. Today was okay, tomorrow I must do better. But I rarely probed deeper. Over time, I realized the difference between venting and interrogating, so I adopted a stricter inner court. Before I lie down, I close my eyes and envision the day like a film. I pause at each emotional high or low. I ask, did I let fear override my values? Did I offend someone through thoughtlessness? Did I shrink from necessary discomfort? Did I waste words or time? Then I affirm one small thing I did well. Sometimes the verdict is harsh, sometimes merciful, but always honest. One evening, I resisted snapping at someone who irritated me. Another evening, I noticed I avoided feedback even when it would improve my work. Yet evenings where I paused long and did this self-trial, I woke with more integrity. There was a night I laid in darkness, cursing myself for procrastination, but I also recognized that I had shown kindness to someone in pain. The juxtaposition forced me not to collapse into guilt, but to lean into nuance and commitment. A challenge for you tonight. In darkness, replay your day. Ask, did I cling to something I shouldn't have? Where did I withhold kindness when I should have given it? One moment I am proud of. Write or speak a sentence of verdict and a sentence of promise. Let closure guide your sleep. Habit 4, contemptuous reflection. Deflate the illusions. Whenever desire stirs, ask, what is this really? Strip away the stories, the practical prescription. During the day, when craving or attachment arises, pause. Mentally reduce the object of desire to its bones. Ask, what is this at its base? Why do I believe it has power over me? Recognize that many attractions are fragile shadows. The Stoic source. Marcus Aurelius counsels, see what things are made of, resolve them into their causes, and strip them of the tales told about them. Meditations 8.11. Gold is hardened earth, fame is others' breath, pleasures fade. Desire is often governed by illusion. When you learn to despise the false glitter, you no longer kneel before it. You walk past it as a free person. My reflection application. I remember once longing for a promotion. I imagined public praise, status, financial ease. In my mind, it glowed like a golden throne. Yet when I paused to reduce it, I saw underneath it was a craving for validation, for external proof I was enough. The promotion was a mask for fear. So I started practicing this mental deflation in small moments. A flashy advertisement for luxury goods. I ask myself, this is just earth and labor, coated in glamour. Why do I chase it? A compliment that flattered. I wonder, am I flatterable? Should I owe others my peace in response? A desirable experience. I say, pleasure fades. After the exhale, what remains? Over time, I feel desire loosen its leash. The glitters don't blind me as much. I still enjoy, still feel longing, but I stand more sovereign. Once, walking past a shiny car, my mind whispered, imagine driving it. I paused and reduced. It is metal wheels, status stories, cost maintenance. The fantasy shrank. I moved on. A challenge for you. Next time you see something you deeply want, pause. Inhale. Ask, what is this really? Jot 2 or 3 stripped statements, e.g., this is just processed sugar. This is just attention given by many. This is a story of achievement. Notice how your emotional tension shifts. Interlude. Why micro? Why stoic? Why this strategy? You may wonder, why these four? Why not a grand reset your life method? Here are three reasons. Resistance to the grandiose. Big changes often demand inertia, bravery, or external catalysts. Small disciplines, however, are portable. You can carry them even in chaos. They survive travel, illness, disruption. Compound effect of consistent effort. Tiny habits multiplied over months reshape identity. The man who says no to a craving once per day strengthens restraint. The person who examines their soul nightly accrues clarity. The fortress builds, stone by stone. Stoic wisdom as internal sovereignty. Stoicism teaches we cannot control external blows, but we can control our responses. The four habits establish an inner citadel. You cannot always shape what happens, but you can refine how you receive, interpret, and act. I have drawn from Marcus Seneca Epictetus, but the real test is your daily life. Philosophy is not academic, it is applied. These habits are tools, not dogmas. A day in practice illustration. Let me walk you through how these habits might weave into a real day. 4:45 a.m. waking. You wake before dawn. Your hand instinctively reaches for your phone, but you hold it back. You lie in darkness, breathe, remember, today I face envy, arrogance, fear. You write courage, clarity. You rise. Morning hours, coffee brews. You don't check email yet. Instead, you reflect on how you want to meet challenges. The phone remains silent. The silence is your altar. Mid-morning. You feel the tug, a snack, a dessert, or craving for social media. You choose abstinence. You walk past the break room with eyes forward. You recall comfort can enslave. You are training. Afternoon race. A tantalizing product ad appears online. You pause. You ask, what is that really? You reduce the image. Plastic, labor, aspiration, image. The shine dulls, the urge attenuates. Evening. In the final hour, you dim the lights. You sit in silence. You replay moments, tension with a friend, avoidance of feedback, patience shown. You ask, did I betray my values? Did I grow in some area? You name one failure, one victory. You promise one improvement. You sleep. Over weeks, this pattern becomes your soil. You may not feel dramatic change each day, but you feel less scattered, more composed, deeper anchored. Critiques, caveats, and adjustments. I want to be transparent. This path is not without friction or limitation. Here are caveats and suggestions. Emotional suppression risk. Some might misinterpret self-restraint or silence as emotional suppression. Be careful. Stoicism is not callousness. When strong feelings arise, grief, fear, love, allow them full expression later. The practices are about deliberately choosing structure, not resignation. Rigidity traps men. If you apply these habits mechanically, they become burdens, not tools. Flex them. If one day you cannot do the morning silence due to illness or crisis, do what you can. The spirit matters more than the letter. Context sensitivity. These habits presume a certain level of psychological stability. If you are in acute mental distress, dealing with trauma, grief, or depression, these tools should be applied gently or alongside therapy. They are scaffolding for growth, not crutches in crisis. Avoid narcissism. The self-examination must not turn into obsessive rumination. Always balance introspection with outward service and engagement. The hero is tested in battle, not solitude alone. Integration with community stoicism is often miscast as isolation. Certainly, these habits involve solitude, but growth must also breathe in relationships, in responsibility, in real action. Use these tools not to detach from life, but to engage better with it. Why this format should engage your audience. If you present these 4 habits in your video or talk, here are ways to keep viewers glued. Open with tension. Start by acknowledging the allure of big transformations, the pain of repeated failure, the temptation to jump to a new identity. Your viewer likely feels stuck. Promise a counterintuitive path. Small, quiet, powerful. Intermix narrative and example. Between explaining a habit, drop personal stories or hypothetical vivid images. Imagine lying awake, craving sugar at midnight, or seeing a luxury ad flicker in your mind. Story anchors philosophy in life. Give micro challenges. After each habit, offer one small, doable experiment, as I did above. Viewers like to try immediately. They will feel agency, not passivity. Use contrast. Show the before and after in mindset. Contrast the man or woman fragmented by impulses versus the one whose inner citadel holds. Let them emotionally sense that the cost of chaos is heavy. Weave reflection prompts. Pause within the video. Let me ask you, the last time you failed to control your anger, can you remember what you would do differently? These mini pauses keep the viewer active, not passive. Close with invitation, not ultimatum. Don't demand perfection. Encourage the viewer. Try one habit tomorrow. See what shifts. Begin with curiosity, not obligation. End with open horizon. Reinvention is earned, not gifted. Final thoughts. The quiet forge of becoming reinvention is not fireworks. It is fire gradually refining iron. The four habits: morning silence, voluntary restraint, evening self-trial, contemptuous reflection, are not magic spells. They are disciplines, daily micro decisions that sculpt the soul. If you begin this path, you may find that your internal voice becomes less chaotic, your impulses less domineering, your priorities more aligned. You may not arrive overnight at peace, but you begin to carry your peace with you. In your life's battles, whether career, relationships, moral tests, internal storms, you may not always command the external forces, but you can command the citadel within. And that, more than any external shift, is true reinvention.